Venture X from Capital One is the travel card for people always asking,
where next?
You earn 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, and 5x miles on flights booked through Capital One Travel, and 2x miles on everything else you buy with Venture X. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hello and welcome to Real Life Ghost Stories. I'm Emma.
And I'm Dan.
And we're going to talk to you about stuff. We need to stop doing an intro.
Because we always say, I'm going to talk about stuff.
Yeah, we need to stop doing that. Serious start to the show today. So this week, I've been talking to another podcast called It Came From The Video Store.
How dare you?
How dare I? Their podcast is called It Came From The Video Store. They contacted me on Instagram. To be honest, we've fallen in love and I'm pregnant with their baby, all three of them.
That took a turn.
That took a very dramatic turn. But in all seriousness, It Came From The Video Store, our podcast, who discuss cult classic films and horror films. And if you are a movie geek, go and listen to them. They're brilliant. But this month, well, in the month of December, they are donating all of their Patreon money to a children's charity who buy toys for disadvantaged children for Christmas, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, really nice.
So I donate to them on Patreon already. Patreon is cheap and it's a really effective way to give money to people who are creating content. So
that sounded like a Patreon promo.
Yeah, here's me. Like,
Patreon is a cheap way to donate to radio
sponsored
shows.
by. No, not really. But if you go and listen to them, they're really good. Their first episode, which they actively told me not to listen to because the sound quality they said wasn't good, is about the 1997 Godzilla, a film that I absolutely adore. Love that film. They did not love that film, but they do really good nerdy podcasts about films, so they're definitely worth a listen to, and donate to their Patreon because it's all for a good cause in the month of December, which is cool. So our review this week is the film Orphan. And Orphan was a film that was released in 2009.
Produced by Leonardo DiCaprio.
As Dan kept telling me while we were watching it.
Big Leo fan.
Big Leo fan. And it has 7 out of 10 on IMDb. It has 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it was released in 2009. And Orphan, if you haven't seen it, I can't say that much about it because there is a major M. Night Shyamalan twist.
Shyamalan.
Yeah, that's his name. Twist at the end of it.
He's got nothing to do with it though.
Yeah, it's not the point. I'm making a reference, okay? Film reference.
All right, sorry.
And he didn't direct the film. I was going to say he directed it. Well, the film is about a family who adopt a girl called Esther. And Esther is a freak.
Russian?
She's Russian and a freak. Not related to the fact that she's Russian.
And it's very creepy. It's a bit of a creepy thriller.
Yeah, it's a creepy thriller. And if I adopted her, I would drop kick her down a flight of stairs.
I thought you were going to say I'd put her down. That's what you normally
Well,
say.
I'd also put her down. I'd drop kick her down a flight of stairs and then put her down. What did you think of it?
I really liked it. It wasn't like a scary, like paranormal thing as much as I thought it was going to be, but it had some good jump scares in it, and the story was really clever. With that lady, Elaine Warren, was in it.
Lorraine Warren.
Lorraine Warren.
The woman who plays Lorraine Warren in The Conjuring plays the mum in it, and the girl who plays Esther, I think she was 12 when they made the film, but she is stunning.
She's amazing.
And I don't know why. She was in The Hunger Games. She played Clove in The Hunger Games, but she was stunning in the film. And I think she was like lauded after the film came out as being the kind of next big thing.
He said lauded. Right.
Is that the right thing?
Yeah, I thought you said loaded.
No, she had loads of money. That's the film, basically. It's an orphan rolling around in loads of money. Not really, but go and watch it. It's a weird, creepy film. I think it's a bit clunky at times in terms of there was a lot of desperation to make it as scary as possible without it being paranormal. It is an interesting ending and a very clever ending, and the girl who plays Esther is stunning. Which kind of leads me into our topic today. Speaking of stunning actors, like myself.
So our topic today is beautiful ghosts.
It's beautiful ghosts. No, it isn't. Oh. Our topic today is theatre ghosts. Woo! Theatre ghosts was a topic that I wanted to do from the beginning. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is that I am a theatre person. I love being on stage, and I love the theatre. I love watching theatre, and I love the experience of acting. But with every theatre, there comes a theatre ghost, which is a really bizarre phenomenon, I think. Every theatre I've ever been involved in, there has been some sort of theatre ghost attached to it. So when I was in secondary school, we used to do musicals every year. And I was talking to my friend Laura, shout out to Laura, and we were talking about how when we were doing musicals in school, we firmly believed there was a ghost that we referred to as the Phantom of the Opera, because we're really sophisticated, that would only come out every year when we were doing our musicals. I believed this so much that I would refuse to go underneath the stage where we stored everything. I just wouldn't do it. But I also went to a convent school where there was a statue of the Virgin Mary, which we also believed moved. And when I was out of lessons, like wandering around, I would run past that statue and I'd be afraid to look at her in case she moved. I also believed at some point that she cried if you looked at her for too long. None of that is true. There is something inherent about theatre and theatre ghosts. And we live in Canterbury, and there's two big theatres in Canterbury. So there's the Marlow and there's the Gulbenkian. And when I was researching this episode, it turns out that there is a ghost attached to both of those theatres. And what's really important about this is that the Marlow is new. It's a new building, but there is reportedly a ghostly figure in white that was seen loitering on the right-hand side of the stage during one performance, and therefore it's haunted. The Gulbenkian is, I think, a relatively new theatre in the grand scheme of things. There is apparently a phantom stagehand in black clothing, or just a real stagehand in black clothing, because that's what they wear. It was seen once in 2011, but is more likely to be heard climbing ladders.
True story, obviously.
It's definitely not a true story. It's
bullshit.
bullshit.
Because both of those theatres were built on Native American burial grounds.
No,
well, the stage ladder things creak, don't they? They creak quite a lot anyway. I can imagine you could probably hear that. I like the fact that they've both only been seen once.
Yeah, and therefore
they're quite elusive
creatures, but therefore it's absolutely concrete evidence that those two theatres are haunted. I've worked in both of those theatres. They're not in the slightest. I've never felt uncomfortable. I've never seen anything. I don't know anybody who's seen anything in those theatres. Actors, I think, are really superstitious people. So there was a really good article in The Guardian about apparently the most haunted theatre in London, and I can't actually remember which theatre it was. They talked about how they were desperate to kind of experience some sort of paranormal activity when they visited the theatre, and they went around with loads of different actors, and all the actors believed that the theatre was haunted. But the reporter was like, it really isn't. It's an old, creepy building, and I suppose if you're there on your own doing a get out or after a show and it's, only blue lighting or whatever, obviously it's going to be creepy, but there was nothing paranormal about it. But every theatre I've been to, there's always a ghost story attached to it, and I find that really fascinating. And I think it's time to introduce our guests. So we're not alone today in the studio.
Or are you?
Or are we? We've got two fabulous guests. We have Cass.
Hi.
And Heidi.
Hello.
And they are the Beyonce and Jay-Z of lesbian couples.
Can I just thank Heidi as well for doing a normal hello? Because Cass that went down your line of going, hello.
Cass did like a university challenge. Hi.
Isn't that what you do when you're on the radio?
Yes, it is. I like my sexy podcast voice, okay? I brought Cass and Heidi on today because Cass has a really terrifying theatre ghost story. Cass, do you believe in ghosts?
I didn't. And then working in a theatre in London, I had a couple of experiences and heard of a couple of more experiences, and now I'm not so sure.
Heidi, what about you?
I'm not sure either. I think that listening to this podcast actually has made me open my mind a little bit more.
Check us out, opening people's minds.
Like how we both did eyebrows and nobody can see us.
Yeah, I forgot that nobody can see us.
It's a very visual podcast.
Yeah. I'm going to get you to go straight into it and tell your story.
Okay, so I used to be the front of house manager of a Victorian theatre in London, which is mostly underground. It's the Criterion in Piccadilly Circus. And I'd been working there a few months, and I had to go back into the bar to get some paperwork I'd left in the office. Went downstairs, all the lights obviously had turned off, we'd got all of the customers out and everything. So there was just the fire exit lights on, which are kind of like a greeny thing. Walked in, and on the left hand side as you go into the bar there was some seats that we used to put latecomers on, and as I walked through, out the corner of my eye I saw somebody sitting on the seats, and I only got a glance, but I saw this woman with white long hair and wearing a white long dress, and I think she was barefoot, and my first instinct was, oh shit, I've like locked somebody in, and so I turned to say, I'm so sorry, and then she disappeared, and I was a little bit creeped out, but I just sort of was like, oh, you know, trick of the light or something. Didn't think anything of it really. Went and picked up my reports, went up to the office, locked up and left. The next day, I was talking to the girl that works on the stage door and said like, oh, I had a weird experience last night. I thought I'd lock somebody in. There was this woman, and when I looked, she was gone. So I'd obviously just, you know, not seen her. And she just went white. And she was like, was she wearing a white dress and had really long white hair? And I was like, yeah, why? And she was like, you need to talk to Luke, the stage manager. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, just talk to Luke. I was like, right. So I saw him in the break room. I was like, Luke, what's this about this woman in white? And he was like, oh, and he just went white as well. And this is a guy that has done theatre for 20 years plus, you know, tattooed, earrings everywhere. This is not someone who scares easily. And he said that one day when he was sorting out the set between the matinee and the evening performance, there was a banner that sort of falls down during the performance, so he was re-rolling that, ready for the next performance. And he was on stage, everyone had gone to dinner, he was the only one there. The door from the stage door to the backstage, there's this big heavy door that creaks really, really loudly when you open it, so they leave it open during the performances. That was closed, and he looks up and there was this woman peering behind the curtain looking at him. Dan is melting in the corner at the moment. So she was just looking at him, and she didn't like ethereal or anything like that. She like totally normal person. And so he was like, can I help you? Because he thought that she'd found her way, but that she was a customer and she'd found her way backstage somehow. And she just sort of went behind the curtain, like just didn't say anything to him, didn't look at him, and just went behind the curtain. So he got up to follow her, to be like, you can't be back here, and she'd gone. And there was no other way backstage or away from that area, from the stage, because there's only a fire exit which was alarmed, or the big heavy door that creaks. So where did she go? And I was like, oh, that is really freaky, but again, not really believing. I was just like, yeah, whatever. And then as I was talking, the same person from stage door came in and was like, oh, you heard Luke's story? I was like, yeah. She was like, well, I've got one actually. So she is responsible for opening up the theatre every morning, and she had to go sort of into the dress circle, and then for some reason the lights for the dress circle were the other side from where the door is, so you have to walk across the dress circle in complete pitch black. But because she's done it every day, she's used to walking that space without tripping over all the seats and stuff, because she's done it every day. So she walked through and bumped into someone.
Ugh.
And
I didn't mean to make that noise.
And she sort of screamed in like surprise, but just assumed like it was a member of crew coming in from the other side or something like that. And so she was like apologising as she's walking to the door to turn the lights on. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you there, obviously. What you doing walking through here in the dark? Turned on the lights, no one there. And she swears she felt a physical body, like it wasn't like a chair or a pole or something like that she could have bumped into. It was flesh. And she said that it felt quite short and frail. So I was like, well, that is weird. Sort of went about my business. A few days later, I was talking to the lighting operator, and he was like, oh, I just had a really weird experience in the lighting box. I was like, what's the matter? He was like, oh, it's just because like where the lighting box was, it was in a weird sort of office like to the side of the stage, and it had a little window that would look out onto the stage. And he said, I was looking out, watching the show, watching for my cues, and I saw like in the reflection of the window a flash of white. So I thought someone was behind me, turned around, no one there. So, and it wasn't when I actually then started talking to some of the other cast and crew, they were like, yeah, like props go missing all the time and then turn up in other dressing rooms, costumes go missing, people have seen like flashes of like white fabric going like behind a door just as they're about to enter a room, and then there's no one in there when they open the door. So like this happened like several times. There were several references to something white and something just a bit weird. That's kind of my story. So I never liked going into the bar after lockup. After that, I just couldn't do it. I was really freaked out.
Do you know what really freaks me out about that story?
What?
Above everything else is the girl who physically bumped into her.
Yeah.
Because we have this perception that ghosts are, you walk through them, or they're like misty.
Yeah.
You get a change of temperature or something like that.
But to physically walk into another human being
Well, it's the same, like, when Luke said that he saw her, he didn't see, like, a ghostly figure. He didn't see, like, something he could almost see through. He saw a woman. And I saw a woman. I didn't see, like, a wisp of smoke. Even though it was only sort of a very, very quick glance, because I kind of, like, did a double take. It was a woman. It wasn't, it wasn't a wisp of smoke or something like that.
I didn't like the creepy looking round the corner of the curtain. That was not a good image in my mind.
That's weird.
That's
She was just like watching him.
It was also accompanied by brilliant movement and action, which nobody would see.
yeah. Cass was doing actions here, and I was very aware of it, and I wanted to be like, you do realise this is a podcast. Nobody can see
I need
you.
to like audio describe what I'm doing at the same time.
Definitely. But that implies that she is sentient, the word I'm looking for, that this whatever she is aware of what she's doing.
Yeah.
Because people talk about ghosts as being imprints of the past, so they redo the same actions over and over
they're
again.
not aware of what's actually happening
so
in reality. Yeah.
that's why you hear
In
footsteps,
our
because they're walking up and down a hallway. The implication is that she is actively
She
watching
knows
the
she's
staff.
watching, yeah. And if she is sort of taking props and costumes and moving around, that she's either got a sense of humour or, maybe she was an actor and that was her dressing room and she wants it just so, or something like that. I don't know, or maybe she was stage manager and she's making sure everything's in the right place. I don't know.
But then there's also, like, actors lose shit all the time.
Yeah.
Like, all the times that you've been stage manager and I've been acting, like, the amount of times I've lost stuff. And that's it's easier then to go, I didn't lose it, it was a ghost. Just every time, ghost.
Yeah, if I'd heard that stuff before I'd seen her, I would have just been like, yeah, someone's just lost, misplaced something, and then like put it back and be like, yeah, it was totally the ghost that moved it. I didn't put it in the wrong place.
I think it's also really important to note at this point that I've known Cass for years. You are the least spooked person I know.
Yeah.
You don't get wound up easily. And if there's ever an emergency, like, Cass is the person to go to, because you all stay really calm. And I think that's why that freaks me out more than anything else, is the fact that you are questioning this story.
That it freaked me out, yeah.
Because you don't get freaked out. Even, like, because you guys were talking about when you listened to our first podcast and Heidi was like, please turn it off. Turn the lights on. Let's watch something nice. Whereas Cass was like, meh. I think if anybody tried to haunt Cass, it would be like the least productive haunting ever. Because she'd be like, eh.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I can't really be bothered.
Well, apparently not.
It does.
That did disturb me.
It does always interest me why they're always wearing white. It's not a very
Maybe there's-
surreptitious colour, is it?
Maybe there's not a big selection of costume in the afterlife.
If she's still in that costume.
Yeah, she just hasn't left. But I don't understand why you would haunt a theatre. Like, I know that actors are egotistical people. I know, because I am very egotistical. But why would you haunt a theatre? Like, the rate of deaths in theatre in the modern era, I mean, it's not big.
If I was a ghost, I wouldn't want to go back to the place that I died. That would just be really depressing. I'd want to go where I had all my great times.
maybe-
Or
they
the
have a
place
choice.
where you really embarrassingly fucked up a line on stage.
I just want to replay it forever.
Just replay it forever.
But then I guess if you're going on the idea that ghosts are imprints of the past or whatever, or imprints of the places around them where they died or spent the most time, then obviously in theatres it's full of tragedy, it's full of death, obviously fake death, but drama. So maybe they kind of linger and perpetuate the emotion. I don't know.
That's a good point, actually. Because it is all about emotional attachment, isn't it? What do you think of that story, Dan?
I didn't like it.
I'm sorry, Dan. I'll tell a different ghost story.
No, I mean, I liked it. It was an interesting story, but it was very off-putting, a bit creepy. You could see the woman peering around the corner of the thing. But I think, like, theatres are a relatively new thing, with the exception of the Globe, aren't they, in terms of actual physical theatres in London. So I know it's Victorian, but that's not actually that old. So she could have just been knocking about in her house or something like that. It could have been something else before the Victorian. So she might not actually have anything to do with the theatre. It might just be the location. And then she's like, what the is this? What is going on here? Why have they hung these dark curtains up? This is not very nice.
Yeah, what are all these props? Move them out of my kitchen.
What is that tattooed guy doing in my living room?
I think my natural reaction when you first told me that story was, well, how did she know it was a human she bumped into? But actually, you would know.
You would
No, you would know, I think.
Yeah.
You kind of bounce off flesh, don't you? It's not like that sounds really bizarre, but like
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's not like something like I'm gesturing again, but it's not like a hard surface that you sort of hit against. There's a sort of reaction.
Bounce.
Yeah.
And I think if you walked into a chair at speed, your initial reaction would be, oh, fuck, that hurt. Not, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that it just gave me the heebie-jeebies. That's my phrase of this podcast. It gave me the heebie-jeebies.
And I would just like to corroborate that by saying, as someone that walks into someone all the time, I definitely know what it feels like to walk into someone.
That's very true. I wonder where the idea of haunted theatres comes from. And I think that actually Macbeth has a lot to do with it. Not the Phantom of the Opera. But I think Macbeth has an awful lot to do with it, because there's this whole superstition within acting circles. If you're not within acting circles, but you'll be aware of this, that actors don't say Macbeth in theatres because they think it's bad luck. I think that's bullshit.
What do they do if they're putting on Macbeth?
You're allowed to say it when you're putting on Macbeth in rehearsals. But even if you're putting on the play Macbeth, you refer to it as the Scottish play. If you're talking about Macbeth, the character, you can say his name. But if you're talking about the play, you refer to the Scottish play or the Bard's play.
Every time I go into the theatre from now on, I'm just going to be walking around going, Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth.
Well,
Macbeth,
I did that.
They get bitch slapped by a bunch of actors.
A couple of years ago, we were doing, you were involved, we were doing a play called Dance at Lunasa, and the director firmly was suspicious of the whole Macbeth thing. And during that time, I ended up being cast in Macbeth, and I was talking about it, and she was like, stop saying the word Macbeth in my theatre. And I literally followed her around, go, Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth.
So where does that come from? Why Macbeth?
There's loads of different stories about why Macbeth is unlucky, but apparently during the first ever performance of Macbeth, which was in like 1606, the actor playing Lady Macbeth died. Bear in mind that actor would have been...
I've seen that clip on YouTube, actually.
Wait. Bear in mind the actor playing Macbeth would have been a teenage boy, and in 1606 he was probably well past his life expectancy. He was probably riddled with
old age.
He died of old age on stage. It was just a cast of juveniles. But the actor playing Lady Macbeth died, and apparently Shakespeare had to replace the actor really quickly, and apparently the actor died on stage. Now, whether or not that's true, there's nobody around to corroborate that story except for ghosts. And then in the 17th century, there was another performance in Amsterdam, I think, and the guy who was playing Duncan was accidentally stabbed because they replaced the knife with it. They replaced the prop knife with a real knife, and he was legitimately stabbed on stage.
Just going to say this, not an accident. How do
Definitely not an accident.
How do you
That's like
accidentally
hot fuzz.
replace the prop knife with a real one?
To be fair, I was doing a show a couple of years ago, and I wanted to bring a real knife on stage, and the director was like, absolutely not, you're going to fall on it and die, which is probably,
probably true.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah.
I'm very accident prone. And then in like 1947, there was a guy called Harold Norman who was playing Macbeth, and he again died in the battle scene, the final battle scene with Macbeth and Macduff.
Was that because they replaced the fake sword with a real sword?
More than likely. Okay. Not only that, but in 1721 and 1772, there were major riots at a production of Macbeth. 2 separate productions, major riots. In 1849, this is the best one ever, there was a production of Macbeth that was taking place in New York, and this mass brawl broke out because there was 2 different groups of fans of the different actors. So one of the groups of fans were really for the British actor William Macready, and the other group of fans liked this American actor called Edwin, somebody whose last name I didn't write down. And the riot got so mental that 22 people died and 100 people were left injured. And this is like historical fact. Like literally the original football hooligans at a theatre.
Or like real life gangs of New York.
Real life gangs of New York. Leonardo DiCaprio yet again. There's all this superstition around the play Macbeth. And then some people believe that it comes from the ancient, or not the ancient, but the original text. And there's a belief that Shakespeare used real witches' spells in Macbeth. With double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. It rhymed. It's not a spell, it just rhymed.
How many witches from that period have you been hanging out with?
Loads.
Okay.
The other side of it is that people believe that the reason why Macbeth is considered unlucky is because when your show was failing, so if your show was not making revenue, they'd stick in Macbeth instead. So they'd cut your show, put in Macbeth, because Macbeth always makes money. And the legend is that if you heard somebody rehearsing Macbeth, it meant that your show was about to get cut. So there's 2 different schools of thought. And it seems like superstition around theatre really did start back in the Shakespearean times. Like that people believed that people died, or that obviously with witchcraft at the time, James I banned the play for years because he was so petrified of witches. Did you know James I wrote a book called Demonology?
I did.
Yeah?
Yep, I knew that.
Absolutely petrified of witches. But I think that a lot of that superstition around theatre comes from that Shakespearean era where the whole world of witchcraft and theatre was pretty much outlawed at the time as well. So it was seen as this kind of outsider activity where only kind of weird people... Counterculture, thank you. Subculture, whatever. Either or.
Subhuman.
We're just going to keep saying words until we get it right. But that's where I think it comes from.
Subway?
But then,
as you said, like Macbeth was one of the most performed plays, and is still one of the most performed plays. So, like, law of averages, it's gonna probably have
Absolutely.
the highest rate of death stories and things like that. You're not gonna get that many of like the Book of Mormon or something.
but equally, like,
it's new.
and at the time as well. So there's all these battle scenes, Macbeth, where people are brawling on stage. So you've got the battle between Macbeth and Macduff. And obviously that's a pretty dangerous battle, and if you do it properly, it's really delicate swordcraft on the stage. Back in the day, everything was lit by candlelight. You know, everything was definitely going to go on fire at one point. Macbeth was put on in a theatre that had burnt down twice, and then people were like, oh, the reason it burnt down twice is because of Macbeth. No, the reason it burnt down twice is because you were lighting things with candles and hay. It's just ridiculous. But that's where I think theatre ghosts stems from. But then your story fucked me up because I was so ready to do this episode and be like, it's ridiculous.
Would it help if I told you that the show that we were performing was Macbeth?
Oh no, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Oh!
It was a comedy called The 39 Steps, so that doesn't really work out.
It doesn't really ring true, does it? But so many people, so many actors still believe the whole Macbeth. I mean, I was in Macbeth and
you died.
I died. Here we are. But I was in Macbeth, and I do think it's cursed because that production was shite. So there we are.
Yeah, but it's in a
You were
castle.
good.
It wasn't a castle. It was very cool.
You were really good.
I was
There's,
stunning.
Like, people have died in other films, like the Silent Hill film.
Mm-hmm.
Someone died filming that film, and
Brandon Lee in The Crow. He got shot by when a real gun was accidentally placed with a fake one. Very similar to that story.
Again, accidentally.
Accidentally.
Oh, I'm just going to leave my gun here next to the fake one. That would never go
I think
badly.
it's real bullets rather than real gun. So I think it was a real gun, but it had blanks in it. But then they replaced it with real bullets accidentally.
What do they think was going to happen? Whose idea was that? Oh my gosh. Sorry, Heidi, we interrupted you.
No, but I guess it is because Macbeth was written and performed in a time of superstition.
Yeah.
And I remember learning about it and then teaching it later on about that people would have been terrified of the witches.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't like, when you're pissing around in a GCSE English class doing your funniest witch voices. Like, they would have been terrified because witches were such like a real thing for people. And I guess we've just kind of lost that. But then actors have retained that superstition.
Also, actors are
Clumsy.
yeah,
True.
but trained in the art of imagination, aren't they? They're trained to see past the normal and to try and create a world, and they're trying to the suspension of disbelief, and that's they're trying to create an environment, and so I think they're more in tune with the possibilities of other worlds or the possibilities of different dimensions and things like that.
And I think as well, a lot of actors love the tradition. They love the kind of pomp and circumstance of...
Absolutely.
We mustn't say Macbeth.
Well, I don't. I just go out and say
It's not a
Macbeth.
thing you have to do. Don't you have to like turn around 3 times, then
So
punch
the-
someone in the face? Or
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is.
Kick somebody really hard in the face,
Then
flying drop kick.
Yeah, throw salt in the stage manager's face. I don't know.
Throw salt in their eyes. No, the actual thing that you have to do is you have to leave the room, turn around 3 times, either say a Shakespearean quote or swear really loudly. They do it in an episode of Blackadder.
Oh, so it must be true.
Well, it's obviously true. But do you have any, as an actor / stage manager / lighting operator / all the other things that you
All
do,
the things.
do you have any routines or superstitions that you have to do before you go on stage?
Not really. I mean, it's not really a superstition type thing, but I always have my nervous poo.
That's fair.
I mean, that's just
That's standard.
just common sense, right?
Yeah, Dan's like nodding knowledgeably. But that's just standard.
That's just standard. But no, that's not.
I mean, your body isn't your
isn't superstitious.
Yeah, your body isn't being like, whoa, we can't go on without having our nervous poo. Although, if you did go on without having nervous poo, that
be
might
terrible.
end badly.
Yeah, maybe.
Nervous poos make sense, though, don't they? Because it's like your body just making sure you're all cleared out before you do anything important.
Or before you see a ghost.
Or before
So
you
you don't shoot yourself.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
it's sensible.
I don't really have anything like that. No. I mean, I have like not traditions. I have like certain snacks I like, certain drinks that I like having, that kind of stuff. But nothing that I'm doing because because it's going to be bad juju or something. Like just like I like Lucozade when I'm doing a show, and I don't generally drink Lucozade.
Yeah, 'cause it gives you energy.
Yeah, exactly. Like nothing. Yeah, it's more tradition or logistics than superstition.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm like the most anxious person in the world, and I don't have any superstitions.
I was going to say you're not particularly a superstitious person.
No, it doesn't. I don't have any superstitions that I need to do before I go on stage, which is weird because you'd think that I would, but I don't.
You're right.
If it's all going to go tits up, it's going to go tits up. And we've been there and done that. And I'm still alive, so it's fine.
Forgotten to say our line because you and I were chatting on stage.
Oh, yeah. So this one time, Cass and I were on stage having really inappropriate and unprofessional. We were having a conversation on stage.
We were supposed to be chatting.
Yeah, but then we ended up actually
Yeah,
chatting.
because we were supposed to be like carrots and peas. And I was just like, so. And we just ended up chatting.
And then we ended up chatting, and then I realised that everything had gone silent. I was like, oh, somebody's missed a line. And then I was like, oh, it's me. I've also had it where when I was doing Macbeth dropped his lines about a third of a way into a scene and just walked off.
I love that we shall leave now.
Just went, we shall leave now, and I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna leave this scene.
That was the ghost. That's why.
That's the ghost. Yeah, he was thrown by seeing a ghost. In that same run of Macbeth, I on one of the nights forgot to say Lady Macbeth's pivotal line, which is "out damn spot." Forgot to say it. Didn't even realise I hadn't said it until I walked off stage, and one of the guys was like just looking at me horrified, and I was like, what's happened? Oh my god, what is it? What's wrong? And he was like, you didn't say the line. I was like, oh, what line? No.
Ghost.
Yeah, it was the ghost. Maybe it's just a way for people to blame things.
Maybe.
Blame, have something to blame for when everything goes tits up.
I was in Weird Sisters, and that's kind of based loosely on Macbeth, very loosely, but kind of based on that. And somebody forgot to come on stage with me once to do I had a dialogue with them. And I marched on stage. I was playing a soldier. I wasn't just really enthusiastic.
Yeah, really enthusiastically marching on stage when you were meant to be a ballet dancer.
I marched on stage very confidently with my little spear, and I looked around and he wasn't there. And I was like, do I have time to go get him? No, the Cougar line's coming up. So I had to turn the dialogue into a monologue. So I just looked like a bit of a schizophrenic soldier, really. But it was all right. I managed to clear it up. Then he ran on after I'd said all the lines.
Oh, brilliant.
Which is really helpful. Yeah, that was obviously the Macbeth ghost as well.
But I think that if people were going to make up ghost stories, it would be actors, wouldn't it?
Do you think that the Gulbenkian and Marlowe stories are true? So, Cass, you worked in the Gulbenkian for
a long
years.
Time, yeah, for about 7 years. No. No, I don't.
Short answer, no.
So you weren't the one person that saw the ghost that one time?
No, it wasn't me.
Disappointed.
No.
I really want to know who it was.
I think we need to track this person down.
Yeah, I think we do too.
I mean, I love the Gulbenkian. I'm a big fan of the Gulbenkian. I don't think there was a ghost there, no. I was there for off and on 10 years. And I'm still affiliated to it now. I'm still attached to it in various
Maybe
ways.
you were there for so long that people thought you were the ghost.
maybe it was just me. Maybe I was just looking really pale that day. I don't know. No, I never saw anything. Never felt any weird. And I used to have to look up in the dark all the time. Never had anything weird. But it is, like you said, it's a new theatre. It was only built in 1967.
Yeah,
68,
that's pretty
68.
new. I mean,
Yeah,
all
it's 50th anniversary.
ghosts are Victorian, as we know.
Obviously,
Like all of them.
And women
Obviously.
in white dresses.
Doesn't matter who you are, what gender you are, you got a white dress.
Yeah, absolutely.
The afterlife is limited. They've got budget cuts. It's hard.
Yeah.
Oh, I remembered you were saying about the most haunted theatre in London.
Yes.
It was Drury
It's Drury Lane,
and
yes.
the story was, because I too read this on the way here, I typed in
Research?
theatre,
I did not do
ghost,
research.
haunted. Yeah, it was that this actor he was in Charlie and Chocolate Factory, was having a chat with someone else,
Yes.
and then the telly was on in the corner of the dressing room, and they mentioned ghost or something, and then the channel changed, and then
Yes.
they said it again, and then the channel changed,
And the reporter was like, this is not what I had in mind when I wanted to write an article about ghosts.
yeah.
Like, faulty electrics is not what I thought this was going to be. Yeah, that was the same one that I was reading. It was in The Guardian. But there was the Drury Lane. It must be true. Big up The Guardian. Come and sponsor us. The Drury Lane ghost. There's also supposed to be a man in a cape who haunts Drury Lane. Again.
I mean, it's not a woman in white.
It's not a woman in white. There's meant to be a man in a cape fabulous ghost.
Yes. If you're going to be a ghost, have a cape.
Dan's very quiet in this episode, I've just realised.
I don't need to do anything, do I?
He's just sitting here and he's like,
Or are you just rocking back and forth in the corner?
he's crying. I love the story though, Cass.
Well, thanks. I
was
saw it
great.
myself.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any ghostly or weird experiences in theatres?
No, I was on stage one day and the set fell down.
I've seen some weird things.
Yeah.
That's just the stuff you go and see.
Yeah, I was on stage one day and the set fell down, but that was because I slammed the door too hard. So wasn't anything to do with a ghost. Slammed the door too hard, set fell down. No, I've never seen anything weird. Like, we often work in the Playhouse in Whitstable, which is a really old building.
Yeah.
And again, that's meant to be haunted. I mean, we've worked in that
By
for
a fisherman.
by a fisherman
Is
in
it
Whitstable.
really?
No.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
No.
The really was to Emma, not to you.
Yeah, the Playhouse is meant to be haunted as well. But I mean, we've worked in there late nights. We've done.
Yeah. I've been in there on my own really late at night.
Yeah, we've been there till like midnight.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
never, nothing's ever given me the heebie-jeebies there.
I'll tell you what does give me the heebie-jeebies there is, so there are two sort of exits out of the auditorium, aren't they, through the two curtains?
Yeah.
And one of them, the stairs to the right lead up to the lighting box.
Yeah.
And the other way is like just to the back of the upper circle. I think you can get to the lighting box both ways, but anyway. One of them is perpetually freezing cold. Like really, really cold. And I think it's just because it's not in use very
Demons.
much. Because obviously. I think it's just because it's not in use very much because it's the only stage crew that go up there. So the audience aren't going up there, so they don't heat it or something. I don't know, but it's always really, really cold, and that just gives a really, especially when you're going up there and it's dark. It just makes you feel eerie, even though there's nothing like spooky about it. It just feels weird because it's like you go from a really warm sort of auditorium to like really cold.
Are the Gulbenkian and Marlow ones less believable because only one person has ever seen it, or is it because they're modern?
I think it's, well, for me,
because they can be easily explained by other things as well.
yeah, it's like somebody standing side stage, livid that your performance is shit. Like, that's why they're a ghost that looks really angry or whatever. I think it's threefold for me. The first thing is that, yes, they're modern. The second thing is that one person has seen them and therefore that means they're haunted. No. And the third thing is like, I can't remember what my third thing was going to be because I've been drinking.
I've been drinking.
No, I genuinely don't remember what my third thing was going to be.
Surely if ghosts are real, then there will be ghosts who are like walking around with like a skinny jeans and a hoodie.
We had this
Maybe
conversation in like our first episode, was it? I don't remember now.
I think we're well overdue the shell suit ghosts of the
Yeah, we are.
90s. They should be here at some point.
Yeah.
Ghosts.
The bell-bottom ghosts of the 70s.
I've read something about a 70s ghost before, so I think they might.
70s ghost.
No, seriously, there was something about a hippie girl.
But yeah, I think we are well overdue ghosts that aren't in Victorian theatres and that are just hanging around parks, drinking big bottles of cider. That's what I want to see.
But if ghosts are like the one I saw, where they look like a person and they're not just like wisps of smoke, then if we saw someone hanging out in a park drinking a bottle of cider in bell bottoms, we'd just think they have poor tasting clothes. We wouldn't necessarily think
Very good
that's
point.
clearly a ghost.
Yeah, because the ghost that I saw as well was a person. It wasn't a ghost except that she had no eyes. So, you know.
Well,
that's weird.
That would give you a clue.
Yeah.
I was on the train on the way back and it was really crowded and I thought I saw like this horrifically scarred person with an eye missing and it made me think of you.
Thanks.
But then when I looked, it was actually just this person's ear. And I just
And that is proof of ghosts.
Proof of ghosts with Daniel. Let's leave it there for this week, shall we?
oh, no, beer flood.
Oh, no, do your... Actually, no, I actually think this is a great story. Do your beer flood story.
Okay, so do you know where the Dominion Theatre is in Tottenham Court Road? It's the one that had the Queen thing in it for the longest time. We were Rocky.
Sure.
Yeah. So in 1814, it was like quite a sort of slummy area, and there was a beer brewery. That's the one. Next door to where the Dominion Theatre stands now, and one of the vats of beer gave way, and it basically flooded the basements of about 8 different houses in that area because it was 610,000 litres of beer. 5 people died.
What a way to go.
2 of them were little girls that were having a tea party in their little slum house, which is a bit sad. One of them was a bar lady from the Tavistock Arms pub because she was in the basement at the time, and because the cellars had no exit when they got flooded, they just drowned. And as a result of this, the Dominion Theatre is haunted. And if you search Dominion Theatre on the internet, there's a picture
of two very drunk girls.
Yes.
Yeah. And all those ghosts are really drunk. I mean, that is a way to go. Like, if you're going to go pissed. That is a way to go.
And they took the people with the slum took the brewery to the court for like loss of life and damage and stuff like that. And then it was like one of the first ever cases that got like put out for an act of God.
Wow.
True story.
Wow.
No, wait, that is actually a really interesting story.
Yeah.
Imagine
Facts with Dan.
Imagine how ironic and horrible it would be if they were like, yeah, the brewery paid them all off in beer. And they had to drink their sorrow.
You got a lifetime supply.
Of beer. Oh, cheers.
But there is actually a really creepy photo on the internet. Well, I think it's creepy, but Emma just looked at it and was like, yeah, there's someone standing behind him. But I was like,
Oh, that was there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll put it up on Instagram and you can decide for yourselves. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure that you review us on iTunes. Make sure that you tell your friends. Come and follow us on Instagram. We are Real Life Ghost Stories on Instagram. Come and follow us on Twitter. We are Real Ghost Pod. Snapchat us too. Real Ghost Pod on Snapchat. And also we have a Facebook group called Real Life Ghost Stories. If you want to come join us and talk to us about random ghost shit, we would love to hear from you. Why are you laughing?
we said Rwandan.
Rwandan ghost shit. No, that's not what I said. So make sure that you subscribe. I sound like a YouTuber. That's not what I had intended to sound like.
Click on the link above.
Details in description.
Ring the bell.
So come and chat to us. And thank you to Cass and Heidi for coming in and doing the episode with us today.
Are we going Heidi or Hass?
Oh, that's a whole episode of itself. So
I like Hass.
I thought we were Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Yeah, but I can't call you Beyonce and Jay-Z. That's copyright.
They're already Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Yeah, they already exist as real people.
We will announce the decision in the next podcast, perhaps.
Yes, we will.
Just write it in the comments below.
Yeah, right.
Tell us
in
your
the comments
thoughts.
below.
Yeah, we'll put it to a popular vote.
And also go and listen to It Came From the Video Store. Those guys are awesome and we love them. And make sure you donate to their Patreon because it's for disadvantaged children, which is really important at Christmas. We love you all. Goodbye. Mwah.
Bye.
Are you ready?
The Christmas countdown's on at JCPenney. Through Saturday, use your coupon and dash away with very merry savings on last-minute gifts across the store, like fine jewelry stocking stuffers up to 70% off after coupon, and save up to 50% on comfy, stylish outerwear for the whole fam. Add curbside pickup to make your trip extra quick. We got your holiday. JCPenney. Offers good on select items through 12/24. Exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
At the Home Depot, we have the tools for you to give the gift of a smarter home with savings on top brands, like the Google Hub, a command center for your smart devices that raises the IQ of your entire home, or the Nest Learning Thermostat that helps you conserve energy and save on your bill. And if you don't know what to get, gift cards are a smart gift no matter what they get. So this year, gift smarter with savings on tools to make your holiday magic. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.